Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Influence Economy podcast. I'm your host, Shayna Davis. I'm glad that you're here today, but before we get started, I always ask my listeners to do a favor. Wherever it is that you're listening to this episode, I want you to take a screenshot. With that screenshot, I want you to post it on your social media, tag us here at Shayna Rattler Davis, and then I just want to hear your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this episode. And the reason why I do that is not because downloads, not because I'm tracking the number of downloads that I have. Publishers care about that. I don't care about the downloads so much, but here's what I do care about. In my opinion, far too many women are living below their profit potential, and everybody doesn't know where to start in order to change that. And so the more times these episodes are shared, the more times that they can be exposed to the shifts that are going to be required in order for them to own their influence. So I appreciate you in advance for being willing to share. Now, I know that I always say that I'm excited, but I really am excited about this interview because I had a conversation with my guest last week about this topic. And y'all know that I like to do it big on the Influence Economy podcast. I don't like to have just your regular run of the mill conversations that everyone is talking about. And this is a conversation that I don't hear about often, but it's one that I think that you all need to hear about. So here we go. My guest today is a business advisor, transition expert, author, and speaker. Since 2006, she has worked with women business owners who are experts in their fields to strategically fine tune their operations and scale their revenue for strategic growth, creating real business value to emerge exit ready. That business value can transform into wealth when these owners are ready to create an elegant exit. She believes that business success and wealth in the hands of women elevates society as a whole. In her best selling book, Your Hidden Advantage Unlock the Power to Attract Right Fit Clients and Boost Your Revenue, she reveals a new perspective and proven practical solutions guiding women to unleash their inner power to run their business with more confidence, profit, and joy. I am excited to welcome to the show Patty Block.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, so we're talking about exiting today. So on the podcast, we talk a lot about like how we can grow our businesses and how we can make the most amount of money from our businesses and our influence in general. But today we're going to talk about what do we need to be taking into consideration if and when we want to exit our business. I used to have the benefit of working for a billionaire who had started multiple billion-dollar companies, and he said he never starts a business without the intention to exit it, and he has kind of the exit in mind before he ever even starts. So we're going to talk a lot today about exiting a business. Again, this is not something that I hear entrepreneurs being exposed to often enough. And you are the real deal Holyfield when it comes to this because I got the opportunity to know you last week. So I want to start with Patty. What types of exits should business owners like be aware of? And how do we determine like which one of those types is best for us?
Well, I'd like to start with what you said a moment ago about your billionaire client. And the word that stuck out to me was he,
Hmm.
because men often are raised to build a company with the purpose of selling it or with the intention of selling it.
Yeah.
And very few women are. So a lot of what my mission is to educate women that this is even a realistic possibility for you. Because again, we don't really think that way.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to start because that educational piece is so important to me. If you're not planning for your exit, the chances of you making something happen is almost zero. And
Wow.
as it is, a study that was done in 2023 showed that of businesses that were interested in building and exiting at some point, 70% of business owners did not have a viable exit plan. Only 30% of all small business owners actually planned and actually had a successful exit. And of that 30%, some tiny fraction, like 2%, were women owned businesses. So keep that in mind as we're talking about this, that this is a hurdle for women to address and to understand you really can position your company for exit, but it's a very intentional process that takes clarity, intention, and discipline.
Yeah, that's so good. And so when I was thinking about exits, I've heard of a couple of different types of exits, but oftentimes when we think about an exit, we only think about who are we going to sell the company to. But that's not the only way that we can exit an organization. What are the other ways that we can exit our business other than just flat out selling it to someone?
Correct. So you certainly can position your company for sale, and then you want to intentionally build real business assets. And I say it that way because we think as business owners that if we're generating revenue, our company is valuable. And
Mm,
that really isn't the case. Profit is super important, but just generating revenue, depending especially how you sell and how you develop business, how you sell your services, and then how you spend your money, all of that factors into your profit. So that's the real key when you're looking at revenue. But there are so many other value drivers inside your business. So you have the option to sell to a stranger, sell to your employees, sell to a family member. Sometimes people don't want to sell, but they want to pass along their business.
mhm,
There's still a transaction, but it might not include much money. So you do have lots of options, and there are lots of companies who do set up their specific structures to help you set up to sell to your employees.
mm,
So those are all very viable options. But let's say you don't care that much about the money or selling. Let's say you don't view your company as your retirement plan. Some business owners do, some business owners don't. What I have found is that across the board, women don't retire. We go on to our next thing, regardless of age.
yeah.
So that's really what I focus on is helping women prepare to exit and then figure out going from, let's say, their second act to their third act, where they're doing work that really lights them up. And I work with experts, so a lot of accountants and attorneys and engineers who are happy to have had that career and that business, but ready to go on to something usually more creative. So let's say you don't care about selling your company. There are other ways that you can exit. Sometimes it is passing your company along to someone where you're not trying to bring in a lot of money from that. Sometimes it is closing the doors,
Mhm.
which I've experienced that. And and I will tell you, so before this, I've had this company about 20 years. And before this company, I was a political consultant and a lobbyist. Built that company over 8 years, very successful. But all of a sudden, I had three little kids at home and a surprise divorce.
Mm,
And it never once crossed my mind I could sell my firm. Never once. So I closed the doors and I needed to stop traveling and stabilize things for my family. So I literally abandoned ship, closed the doors, and went to get a job for a period of time. And that was my transition plan until I could start this company. So there you have so many options when you want to do something different, when you want to exit. And the truth is, you are going to exit someday,
yeah, one way or the other.
one way or the other, whether it's voluntary or not, whether it's intentional or not, you are going to exit. We don't live forever. Often, as we get older, we have health scares.
Mhm.
And even a health scare can put us out of commission if your business is very reliant on you. So, those are some of the ways that you can transition out. What I focus on the most is helping women who do want to sell and want to get their companies ready, which usually takes about 5 years
Mm,
to really build that value and be intentional in how you, not only how you want to sell, but to whom you want to sell.
wow.
Makes a huge difference when you find just exactly the right buyer for your company.
How can we tell when is the right time? You know, you said like this is how long it takes, but I was interviewing someone a couple of months ago, and we were talking about scaling, and she was saying you're really not scaling until you've gotten to this marker. We all use the word scaling at different parts of our business, but she had like a certain earmark. And so, how do we determine whether or not it's the right time, even if we're thinking about it with the end in mind from the beginning. Like, how do we really know when is the right time to exit if we're going to try to do it in an intentional way, like you're describing?
So let me give you some real life examples. First of all, the good news is that every value driver that you improve inside your business, you make more money, you have less stress, things are more streamlined. If you have staff, they're better trained, they're more
Hmm.
prepared. So everything that you're doing to prepare for your exit stabilizes and optimizes everything you're already doing in your business. So there is absolutely no downside to doing it. And I do have clients that work with me for, let's say, 5 to 10 years. They're not sure when they're going to be ready. But I will tell you, one of the most common scenarios is that a buyer will come in, especially when you've positioned your company. A
Hmm.
buyer will come in and make an offer. And I've had that happen with multiple clients. How do you know it's the right offer? How do you know it's the right company to buy your company? How do you know that the deal really benefits you? Because it sounds like a lot of money and it seems like a good deal. But then when we start, again, when you have somebody who's knowledgeable and has seen this time and again, one of the things I'm extremely passionate about is that I see women get hurt and hustled
Mm.
every day. And it just drives me crazy because there's no need. Just because you haven't been through an exit, just because you haven't experienced this kind of transition, does not mean it's okay to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And that is a huge part of what I do is make sure that my clients are not taken advantage of. And even though a deal sounds interesting and good, and we have a lot of fear, like if I don't take this deal, I'll never get another one. No
Mhm.
one's ever going to want to buy my company.
Yeah.
And it's such a real, visceral fear. So we take the deal and then kind of deal with the fallout, either of the deal not going through, or in some cases it goes through, but the terms are terrible. And so those are all the things that I'm looking out for, those pitfalls of how can we make this successful for everybody who's involved, including your staff and clients. So that's really an important aspect to me is let's make this a win-win-win all the way around. And the way we do that is with women understanding they can negotiate.
Right.
Often we think we just have to take what's offered to us, and that's just not the case. You can negotiate everything, but everything's not negotiable.
That's such a good statement. I gotta write that down. So, Patty, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that we need to make sure that we do, and also some of the things that we make sure that we avoid doing when we're exiting our business. We'll be right back. Ready to turn your influence into income? Take the Influence Growth Assessment. In just minutes, you'll uncover the next steps to grow your visibility, attract bigger opportunities, and boost your profitability. Visit myinfluencestyle.com to take the assessment today. A new era of success is waiting. Let's make it yours. All right, welcome back. So today we're talking about what do you do and what do you not do when you want to exit your company. I love what you said, Patty, about, you're going to exit one way or another. And so why not be intentional? Why not position yourself to be in the best place possible? Because when you think about starting a business and growing a business and running a business, it takes so much out of you, like the glory days and the gory days. Why would you not want to make sure that when you decide for it to come to an end, that you're actually doing in a way that gives yourself, legacy, and also actually honors all of the hard work and resources and things of that nature that you've put into it. So, one of the things that I want to ask you before we get into the tips, because I know that this is really relevant in today's world of women business owners, especially at the time of this recording, a lot that is being taught, and that's personal brands. We're being told that we should build personal brands. I have a personal brand. And so, can someone who is building a personal brand, can they exit? And well, let me put it this way. Can they sell? And if so, how what are some of the things that they can do? Because if I'm a personal brand, my social media is built around myself and my thought leadership. The images are around me and my thought leadership. The products and services are around me and my thought leadership. So how could someone who has a personal brand position themselves to sell if it's possible?
It is possible, and even one person companies can sell. So it is definitely possible, but here's the key, and that is building your intellectual property and doing so in a way that actually um, creates value. So, yes, your name and your brand may be attached to everything that you're doing, but you've also probably built frameworks, processes, structures around the service you deliver. And because of that, those are things that are sellable
Yeah.
and have real business value. So you want to make sure that you're carefully using copyright correctly, that you are trademarking things that need to be trademarked, and having those as registered trademarks is also very valuable. Excuse me, but don't go crazy trying to trademark everything because a lot of times that's considered less valuable than all your copywritten work.
Mm,
If you've written a book, your book is under copyright. So again, all of those things are valuable, and it really depends on the buyer, what the buyer values. And that's going to be true no matter what your company does, no matter what your branding is. Everything is contingent on the buyer and what they think is valuable. So it kind of doesn't matter what you price your business as, or if you go to market. As I said, many of my clients do not go to market. They do not put themselves out there as being for sale. And also, there's a really tricky issue, and that's the balance between secrecy and stability, because you don't want your staff and your clients to know that you're interested in selling your company, or they will scatter to the four winds.
yeah.
So, part of that too is how you balance that out so that you can keep this big secret and still position your company and decide if you want to go to market. Most of my clients do not. They do not go to market, but they have a buyer who comes to them. And then we also use legal agreements, which is also super important with your intellectual property. Make sure you own it. So a lot of times we use contractors, sometimes employees, to create our intellectual property, our systems and our frameworks. And if your legal agreements are not clear, then it could be that the contractor owns that
Wow.
instead of the business owning it. So
Yeah.
all of those things are very complex. They are regulated issues through the United States government or whatever country you live in. They're all regulated. And so all of those things add up to that business value as long as you know how to distinguish those and manage those assets.
Well, I'm glad to know that I'm on the right track, not only with what I'm doing with myself, but what it is that I teach my clients, because I'm such a proponent of if you're going to have real thought leadership and you're going to have real intellectual property, you do need to have frameworks because it not only what I teach my clients is it not only makes it easier and more likely that people are going to buy from you because they know they're purchasing a system or a process and not just something that's going to be whimsical and kind of all over the place with no structure. But I also tell them, like, this is what's going to get corporations to bring you in to train their people. And this is also what can get people to want to buy your company as well. So you can be a personal brand, but what are you leaving behind? Your frameworks and your intellectual property, even if you don't sell, hopefully you do, but even if you don't sell, that's what's going to cause you to have a legacy and for your work to continue on far beyond when you are no longer in business or no longer even able, to teach what it is that you're teaching. So I'm glad to know that we're on the right track over here. So Patty, I'm curious, so we've done the right things, from the beginning. We've put the right things in place, and we have now determined, whether it's through what we've learned or through working with you, we've now learned that it's time to exit. What would be one of the most important first steps for us to consider taking when we're ready to exit?
If you don't have an advisor who is knowledgeable about the exit process, that would be the first step because there are so many complexities. And you're going to be talking to and learning from experts you've never had to deal with before, specialty attorneys, specialty CPAs, people that are going to be speaking jargon that is a foreign language. So, that, in my view, is the very first thing. In a perfect world, you should back up 5, 6 years, work on building the value of your business with this advisor, and then have them help you through the exit process. So that would be the first thing. I will tell you what is commonly advised as the first thing, and I disagree with this, and that is to get a business valuation.
Mm,
For a number of reasons, don't waste your money. Within 6 months, that valuation will be incorrect. Plus, if you're going to focus on building the value of your company, but you haven't really done that yet, why would you get a valuation that you know is going to be low? And you're going to spend between $10,000 and $20,000 for this valuation. That is what the accountants and the attorneys will tell you is your first step.
mm,
And I disagree with that. Build value, start working towards your exit, and wait to get a business valuation because the truth is it makes no difference whether they value you at $10 or $10 million. Makes no difference for a number of reasons because you have the option and an opportunity to build value and increase that value, but also it's up to the buyer to decide how much they're willing to pay for your company. So
yeah,
even if you value it at $10 million, unless you can find a buyer who's willing to pay that, it just makes no difference. So again, I see women get hurt and hustled all the time and spending this money up front that is a complete waste of time, energy, and money. And remember that everything you do, every step you take in your exit process takes your time and energy. You can't delegate it. You can't let other people make decisions. So it really takes a lot of time, energy, and focus. And you need to be prepared. So going back to your question a moment ago about how do you know when it's time, most of the women I work with, because I work exclusively with women, they know, they feel it, and they're ready to make a change. And the ones who are very wise have planned ahead. So by the time they get to that feeling, they're not forced by a health situation or a financial situation. They're not forced to do anything, but they know inside they're ready for a change.
yeah.
Those are the most successful transitions because the seller is ready and they're ready to find a buyer who understands the value of what they've built.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a full masterclass in exiting. I knew I had the right girl for the job. So, Patty, you are a wealth of knowledge, and I know people are going to want to know more and learn more. And so, if they want to follow you on social media, what social media handle do you most recommend that they go to?
I would say LinkedIn, and it's Patty with a Y, PattyBlock. And I spend a great deal of time on LinkedIn, so I'd love to connect with your audience and to answer questions if I can. And I also do a weekly newsletter, a LinkedIn newsletter, and an email newsletter. So again, a big part of what I do is educating and helping women understand the potential for using their business as a wealth building tool.
Yeah. And what if they want to take things further with you? What would you like to offer?
I would start with an assessment. And if you go to the domain she-exits.com, so she-exits.com, you can take an assessment. It's the Exit Readiness Index that I developed to answer the question that you asked a moment ago, Shayna, of how do you know when you're ready?
Yeah.
And the assessment will help you figure out how ready you are and where the gaps are and where it would be helpful for you to work on those specific things so that you can get exit ready.
Awesome. Well, Patty, thank you so much for being here. I know that this episode is going to be a hit. You have dropped some gems, you've dropped some nuggets. Everyone, I want you to not only take this to heart for what it is that you're building, but I want you to share this episode with every female founder, with every woman business owner that you know, because this is not being taught. And like she said at the top, most of the people that this has been ingrained in their mind or that thinks they can do this or is thinking about doing this tends not to be women. So share this episode with everyone that you know. And I hope that you will go back and listen to previous and future episodes as well. Everyone have a great day. Bye bye.